Equals. The rain had fallen through the night, soft and persistent, washing over the tarmac at RAF Waddington as men moved in hurried silence. Flight Lieutenant Kenneth Campbell stood beside his Bristol Blenheim, watching the dawn creep through thick English mist. News had broken less than a day ago. Britain was at war with Germany. The air felt tighter, heavier, as if the island itself was holding its breath. Mechanics checked fuel lines, gunners oiled their Brownings, and navigators bent over charts marked with new enemy coasts. Campbell rubbed at the lucky charm his mother had pressed into his palm before he left Glasgow. This was not a drill. Across the dispersal area, Wing Commander Harris shouted, "Gentlemen, the King expects." The words hung in the air like a vow. The men nodded, climbed aboard their aircraft, and prepared for the first offensive flight of Bomber Command's wartime history.
Equals. Inside the dimly lit operations room, maps were spread across tables, dotted with pins tracing the German coastline. Group Captain Patrick Playfair leaned over the main board, eyes reflecting the glow of plotting lamps. Intelligence reports spoke of German warships, Admiral Scherer and Emden, anchored at Wilhelmshaven. Nearby staffers whispered about anti-aircraft batteries and uncertain weather. The mission was clear, but perilous. Strike the enemy where they rested. "We're to show them Britain's resolve," Playfair declared grimly. For the airmen waiting outside, those words translated to a cold truth. Some would not return. The operators marked routes, winds, fuel consumption. Then came the dispatch orders. 12 Blenheims from 107 and 110 squadrons, 10 Wellingtons to follow. The first bomber offensive of a new war was set. Silence fell as engines began to hum in the distance, an orchestra tuning for fate's debut.
Equals. The roar of piston engines shattered the morning calm. Inside the Blenheim's narrow cockpit, Campbell adjusted his oxygen mask and glanced at his navigator, Sergeant Milburn, who folded maps with trembling hands. "We'll be fine, Ken," Milburn said, forcing a grin. Campbell answered only with a nod. The three-bladed propellers glistened in the light as the aircraft rolled down the runway, lifting over fields still heavy with mist. Behind them, Wellingtons lumbered upward, silver shapes against the dim sky. Below, mechanics watched their charges vanish into cloud, offering silent prayers. Across Britain's coastline, anti-aircraft lookouts tracked their silhouettes, proud yet fearful. The war in the air had begun, not with sweeping victories, but with uncertainty and courage. The radio crackled with clipped voices, call signs exchanged over static. "Formation steady, set course east." The channel awaited, quiet yet vast, like the edge of a new world.
Equals. As the coastline slipped away beneath them, the channel opened wide gray, endless, indifferent. The rhythmic pulse of propellers filled the cramped interiors. Campbell's squadron flew low, hugging cloud cover to avoid detection. Icy wind seeped through the fuselage seams, numbing hands on metal controls. Through the haze, the lead navigator called out bearings in calm, practiced tones. Below, ships moved like dark insects across the sea. The further they flew, the thinner the connection to home became. One Blenheim's engine coughed, then steadied, a reminder of fragility. Over the radio someone whispered, "First time over enemy waters." No one replied. Beneath them was Europe, a continent sliding into nightmare. In that silence, burdened by both duty and doubt, the young airmen understood this moment would mark them forever. The dawn of modern aerial warfare had come, and they were its first messengers.
Equals. Just after midday, the clouds broke over the North Sea, revealing the German coast stretched like steel beneath sunlight. Campbell's formation descended toward Wilhelmshaven. The port shimmered with naval power, docks filled with destroyers, the silhouettes of the Emden and Scherer at anchor. "Targets in sight," Milburn breathed. The calm before the storm broke with the first burst of flak. Black blossoms erupted in the sky, shuttering the Blenheim's frame. "Tighten up, lads," Campbell called over the radio. The aircraft bucked under sudden turbulence. Tracer fire carved orange lines around them. Bomb bay doors yawned open. From the bomb aimer's position came a cold voice. "Steady, steady." Then the release. The bombs fell, tumbling toward the harbor like dark seeds. Campbell pulled sharply upward, the ground exploding in flashes of light behind. Smoke rose over Wilhelmshaven. Britain's declaration had been heard.
The harbor roared to life. Sirens howled through Wilhelmshaven as anti-aircraft guns spat fire at the oncoming formation. Campbell's bomber shuddered violently, metal ringing from near misses. "Hold her steady!" Milburn shouted. Below, the Emden's crew raced across decks, manning turrets, while German destroyers churned the harbor in frantic motion. One Blenheim took a direct hit. Its right wing flared, spinning out of formation before exploding against the water in a burst of black smoke. "Peter's gone!" someone cried through static. Campbell's jaw tightened. He pressed forward, ignoring the smoke that now filled his own cockpit. Bombs erupted along the shoreline, geysers of earth and flame. The first raid was neither graceful nor devastating, but it was defiant, a signal of Britain's will to fight. Above the chaos, amid the screams of engines and flak, Campbell thought of home and pushed for altitude. The return flight became a gauntlet of fire and fear. Damaged bombers limped through retreating clouds, smoke trailing from shattered fuselages. Campbell looked back. Half the formation was gone. The radio was cluttered with fragments of call signs, broken pleas, final words swallowed by static. "Navigator, course west," he ordered softly. Below, the gray expanse of the North Sea offered no comfort. One Wellington ahead tilted, its engines faltering. Moments later, it vanished beneath the waves. Milburn sat in silence, staring at the sinking place. "We'll be next if that fuel leak worsens," he muttered. Campbell managed a faint smile. "Then let's not let it worsen." They pressed on, mechanical devotion carrying them where hope faltered. At that moment, the grandeur of war gave way to something simpler, sharper, the fight to live another hour. The first battle had exacted its price.
Hours later, the coast of England emerged through the haze like a pale promise. Campbell's Blenheim limped across the shoreline, landing gear barely functional. "Almost there," Milburn whispered, eyes closed. As they approached Waddington, emergency flares marked the runway. Touchdown was brutal, skidding, sparks, silence. Ground crews rushed forward, pulling open the hatches. Exhausted, singed men stumbled out, heads bowed. Around them, rescue trucks idled, watching the sky for any other shapes returning. Of 22 bombers that had departed, only a little more than half made it home. The airfield smelled of oil and despair. A sergeant approached Campbell, clipboard in hand, voice uncertain. "Sir, that's the count." Campbell looked at the names, each absence a blow. Behind him, the sun slipped below the clouds. Britain had drawn its first blood, but it was clear this war would not be won swiftly. That night, the hangars were quiet, except for the tap of tools and the low hum of distant generators. Airmen moved through the shadows, tallying losses, sketching what had gone wrong. Campbell sat on an ammunition crate, helmet in hand. "Did we make a difference?" Milburn asked softly. Campbell didn't answer immediately. Outside, the stars shimmered beyond a veil of English cloud-indifferent witnesses. "We showed them Britain's heart," he said at last. In those first days of September 1939, the RAF had no illusions of triumph. They had crossed into a new era where courage meant defiance in the face of inevitable loss. Somewhere across the sea,
German sailors swept debris from the harbor, and planners on both sides redrafted their strategies. But for the men who had flown that day, history had begun to write their names in smoke and fire. Equals. By morning, the next mission orders arrived. War had a rhythm now: departure, danger, return, or absence. Campbell stood on the airfield watching the sunrise through smoke-stained air. The first raid had been modest in damage, devastating in cost, but decisive in meaning. Bomber Command had crossed the threshold from peace to total conflict. RAF crews across the nation studied their maps, replaced missing names on rosters, and readied for countless sorties yet to come. The war would stretch over 6 years, consuming skies and souls alike, but that September morning marked the first heartbeat of that crusade. As the next generation of aircraft rolled from hangars, the ghosts of Wilhelmshaven lingered. Campbell closed his eyes, hearing again the thrum of engines fading into clouds. The era of the bomber had begun, and with it, the long shadow of modern war.